Okay, we're going to use our Finale 2014.5 version, and I'm doing this on my PC. My computer in my office here, I have a Mac iMac, and I've got virtual machine on here, so I can actually toggle back and forth between having a Mac or having a PC. Since a lot of you I know use PCs, I'll stay on the PC side, although you can get this for both, either Mac or your PC. And this is the 2014.5 version. You can get lots of different versions of this depending on when you buy it. I think it's up to version 26 now. I don't continue to upgrade it every year because some of the new bells and whistles I really don't need. If you buy the software now, depending on where you buy it, it's probably going to cost you between $475 and about $600 to initially buy it. So I know it's an investment, but it really is worthwhile. So let's go over here and we'll click onto it and we'll open this up. And I think we're just going to do a simple demonstration of one piece with one vocal line in it. I'll come back and do this setup wizard in another video here. But for today, let's just take a look at the default document. And the default document is going to be very, very simple to use. Now you see we have a couple of things up here. Usually what I like to do is get rid of these things because I really don't need them. You'll see also up here we have a toolbar on the top and on the side as well. And we'll go through each one of these in a minute to show you what we want to do. But in order to clear out title and composer and score, we want to use the T, the text tool. And you'll see when I did that, each one of those has a little box on it. I'm going to click onto that to highlight it, and then I'm going to use my delete button just to get rid of that. And so that's going to clean it up and give me some extra space. The other thing I'm going to do too is you notice how this staff starts way over here, like as part of an introduction. I'm going to bring that over and get rid of a lot of this white space. So to do this, excuse me, I'm going to use my tools and I'm going to use the page layout. And over here you're going to see there's a couple of different editings. Here we have the distance between the systems, and here we have the actual top and bottom. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to eliminate the value of 1.5, and I'm just going to delete that, and I'm going to hit apply. And I'm coming over here, and I'm going to delete that and hit apply. That brought me over here. Now do you see we also have these extra highlighted items. I'm going to drag this on over so that it kind of lines up along the side there like that. Good. And again, now I can take this 1.5 inch margin off the top and I'll hit apply. And now it really took it up. So let's add maybe a 0.5 and click enter. And so now we have that. So now we have most of our music space that we can work with here. So I'm going to have to decide now, do I want to have a 4/4 time, what key signature I want to do. What I'm going to do over here is I'm going to click my key signature. That's staff. This is key signature tool. And when you get the software, you can scroll over each one of these and it'll tell you what it is. Key signature tool. I'm going to click on my first measure, and it's going to give me some options. So when you double click with your left click button, it'll give you these options. And if you click up and down, you can change the keys into sharps and flats, or just keep it in C major. You could also change it if it was going to be in the minor key, the relative minor, so it would be A minor, but I think we'll just leave it in major key. And for our demonstration piece, what we're going to do is we're just going to stay in C major. I'm going to show you how to maybe transcribe the song "Oh God, Our Help in Ages Past," so that maybe you might want to use this as a hymn that you want to put into your worship aid. So we're going into key of C. Okay, so we'll hit OK for that. Now we also want to have a time signature. Well, the version that I'm going to be showing you is in 4/4 time, but this would be the time signature button. And you would again double click the first measure with your left button. And here you have a lot of options about what you can change the time signature for. How many beats per measure, what the duration of that is. So if you wanted to get some funky rhythms, you could do that, 6/4, 7/4, 8/4. You want to have the beat duration. You can do all kinds of fun things here. So we're going to stay in 4/4. All right. And the other neat thing about this particular song I'm going to show you is that this particular song has a pickup measure. So we want to make sure that we account for that when we start to write this out. So under document, you'll see here down at the bottom it says pickup measure. So Oh God, Our Help in Ages Past starts on a pickup of a quarter note. So I'm going to come on over here, give it a quarter note, say yes, and so now I've got one beat right there as my pickup note. So now let's pick out the notes. Over here you have various values for your notes. We have a quarter note here, so that tells us that we're using the quarter note. So we're going to start on the G, and you can hear the note as you play it. No, that doesn't sound right, does it? No, that's because we need to have an F sharp. So if we want to raise that, just one particular note without putting an F sharp in the key, we want to come down here to our accidentals and actually click onto that. Come on over here and click onto that note, and that'll give it the F sharp. But you see the F sharp is still tagged onto that note as I'm dragging it around. That means every note is going to be sharped after that if we don't do something. So we need to come over here and eliminate that by clicking it again, and that'll disengage that sharp. And now the next note is going to be a dotted half. So we have the half note here, and we want to add the dot to it to give it the 3 beats. Okay. Now you see my dot is still tagged onto that little phantom note, so any other note that I do after that is still going to have that dot on it, and we've got to get rid of that. So come on over here, click onto that again. So now the next phrase begins with a quarter note. If I didn't do anything in this measure, if I started over here, you see what happens? That rest appears. And that's because Allegro will default to fill the rest of the measure with however much time is left. We had a dotted half note here. That means 3 beats. We're in 4/4, so it automatically put a quarter rest in there. Well, we don't want that quarter rest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that out, because our next phrase starts with a quarter beat on the B, and we'll continue and finish the song out. And now the last note is a dotted half. Okay. Now that's the end of the song. I'll take my note off of here. So I want to come up here to the measure tool, and I want to mark this as my double bar line here, because that's the end of the song. So when I do that, oops, guess what happens? That extra rest showed up here, because as I said before, it wants to balance it out. But I don't want that quarter rest there, because as most music people will know, we start with a pickup note. That's the 4th beat. So here's an easy way to get rid of that. This little slanted note, it's the speed entry tool. If we click onto that, now we can do all kinds of fun stuff. You see what that does here? It kind of highlights. Let's go down to this measure. It highlighted that. So we'll come on over here to this beat. Now, if you type in on your key the letter H, which stands for hide, I'm going to type that. Now, what did that do? That put it into a phantom mode. So you're not going to be able to see that note when it gets printed. So we're not going to have to worry about that. It's already gone. So let's come on up here and we'll do our double bar line, excuse me. I clicked onto that top square, I double clicked onto that, and it gives me all these options here. So since this is the end of the song, it's the final, we're going to click onto that option, say OK, and now we're done. So now we've got Oh God, Our Help in Ages Past laid out with the notes. Well, I've got all these extra measures. How am I going to get rid of those? Well, again, use your measure tool, and we're going to click onto that first measure, and we're going to end up highlighting the rest of these here by going over here to Edit and then we're going to select region. Well, we already started on measure 9, so I want to go through to the end of 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. I think there's 31 measures there. So we're going to highlight that, type in 31, click OK, and now all of those are highlighted. I hit my delete button, and boom, they're all gone. Now the spacing looks kind of weird right now because you've got a lot there and a little bit here. That's okay. Don't worry about that. We're going to fix that in a minute. So let's add some text, okay? Well, you see this little pen and ink well? That's the lyrics tool. Click onto that, and you're going to have a little window. I'm just going to move it over to the side here. And it's going to show you the progress of your typing as you go along. What's really neat here is you see how my cursor button now has changed to the arrow, and it's pointing to the arrow of the note where I'm going to be typing. So I'm going to click onto that, and you see the cursor now flashing underneath that first note G. So I'm going to start to type using my keyboard. O space God, comma, space, our, space, help, space, in, space, a. Now let's back up a little bit. We're going to split this word up over 2 notes. So I'm going to do the first syllable here. I'm going to use a hyphen. That'll connect them and it goes to the next note. Jez, past, comma, our hope for years to come, comma. And all I did was space, and it went right on over to the next note. Our shall, and because it's a hyphenated word over 2 notes, we're going to use the hyphen again. Ter, from the storm, hyphen, y, blast, and our, e, hyphen, ter, hyphen, nal, space, home. Okay, so now you've got the text underneath the notes where they need to be. And you can see how it kind of showed up over here in this little window. All right. Now, I know from experience that if I leave it like this, it's in 12 font, the size. It's probably not going to be as big as I want it to be in the worship aid. So what I've learned from experience is go ahead and left click on your mouse, highlight all of that, come on up here to text, and change the size of it to 14. Now, it's changed the size of the font to 14, which is pretty cool, and it's a lot easier to read. But you see, we still have goofy spacing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to click on to the measure, and I'm going to do one measure at a time and drag it down to this next staff. So I'm going to kind of crunch it up here a little bit, and then just drag it off, and it moves it automatically down there. So now I can respace this a little bit to make it look a little bit cleaner. Okay. There we go. And over like that. Good. Now you notice there's measure numbers that occur at the beginning of each staff. Well, I don't want that to show up on my worship aid. So while I'm still on the measure tool, I'm going to left click onto that little button right there where it said 5, and I'm going to hit my delete. And now what it does is it puts it kind of like in shadow mode, I call it. It makes it invisible. You won't see that whenever it gets printed. But still, this space here looks, maybe it's too much. Maybe if you had about 4 or 5 lines of music here and you wanted to tighten it up, how can you tighten that up? That's easy. All we do is we hit the tool button again. We go to our page layout again. Now, remember I mentioned something before about the distance between the systems? Systems, that's what these are, the staffs. These are the systems. So here's system 1 and system 2. So I want this space to be tightened up. So I'm going to type 2, and because I'm not going over several different systems, I'm just going to go through 2 again. And now I'm going to say leave it at 0. I'm going to hit apply. And there we go. Okay. Then if I want to click off of that, I can click it there. Okay. Now say for example I wanted to put a copyright. So I'm going to use my text tool. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to click on it. And now that'll open up a whole new text box. And so say for example I want to write the music tune is music is Saint Anne. And we all know that because if we know our hymn tunes, that's the hymn tune. And I'm going to say copyright. I got it from my OCP hymnal. Whoops. OCP hymnal. And I'm going to give it a date. Say, I'll just say right now, 2018. All right. And then what I'll do is I'll just click off of it and that'll save it. Now, maybe you might want to center that. All you have to do is drag it over here, copy, and then now you have it. So now you have the simple hymn tune. Maybe what you want to do is you want to add a second verse. Let me drag this down for a minute here, and we're going to add a second verse. Over here, you can now click up to 2, and what it's going to do is it's going to change the relative spacing. You see these arrows right here? Now I'm ready to go ahead and type the second verse. So I might want to put 2 period and then just begin be for the hills in order stood, etc., etc., etc. Okay, and I misspelled before, so I'm going to come on over here and I'm going to go F-O-R-E. Okay. Now, you see how that line continued on? That's because I didn't finish what the text was, so I would have to continue finishing the text. If I didn't like the spacing there, I could come on over here and drag this down and give you some more space in that as well. So let's clean this up a little bit. I'm just going to take this out because we're going to do something in a minute to show you what else we can do. And now what it did was it changed my spacing here, so I'm going to have to go back and redo that and bring it down. Okay. And then I'm going to click my text box and come on up here. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to save this, okay? You have to have a folder to save it in. Now if you did just click save, it'll go into the Allegro Finale. And what I've done, because I've got lots of things in here, you won't have all this stuff when you start it off. It'll just come up here and you'll have an empty menu box here, and you just have to give it a title. So I'm going to give this I'll just do test 1 just for right now. You can change how you save it depending on what you want to use, but it defaults into Music X as the file notation. So I'm going to save it there as test, and now it's ready to go. So I have that saved. But now I want to convert it, and I want to be able to use this in a worship aid. What you need to do, first of all, is before you get started, in your document files or something like that, create a folder that might say TIFF files or something else that you'll remember where you're putting these. I have what's called TIFF files, T-I-F or T-I-F-F. When you get into publishing things, you'll have files that are TIFF, PNG, EPS, all different extensions. TIFF and PNG and JPEGs, those are the most common things that they use like in publishing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say I want to be able to put this into a worship aid. How do I do that? Well, excuse me, once again I'm going to come up to Tools, and I'm going to go to Advanced Tools and Graphics. All right, and left click onto that. Now I want to be able to save this whole thing as a graphic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start over here, and I'm going to double click my left button, and I'm going to hold it down and not let it go, because I'm going to show you what it's going to do. Double click, and I'm going to drag it all the way across here and drag it all the way down, so that what I've done is I've boxed it in, and that's how much I want to be able to save. Now I'm going to lift my button up, and you'll see that it's highlighted like that. So now I'm going to come up to Graphics, and I'm going to say Export, and I'm going to export it as a TIFF file, but Maybe you might want to do something else. Like I said, JPEG, PDF, PNG, TIFF. So I'm using TIFF files, and it's going to get saved to a folder. So what I've done in the past is, because I've saved so many of these, it automatically knows from a default what folder to go to, but I'm going to show you. It's going to go into my documents and my Finale files, but I don't want to keep it in Finale files. I have a separate folder called TIFF Music. So I'm going to double click onto that, and you'll see I have all different kinds of folders in here, and I'm going to save that as test 1. So I'll save that, and now I've got that graphic saved as a TIFF file. So in another video, what I'm going to show you is how I use my software, my Adobe InDesign software that I use for making worship aids, and how I can import this into the worship aid, and it'll be really, really easy. I know this seems like a lot right now, and there's much more to cover, but this just kind of gives you the basics of what you can do with Allegro Finale in creating a simple melody line here. And I chose something like this, "Oh God, Our Help in Ages Past," so that I wasn't messing up with anybody's copyrights. But if you happen to be using stuff that's copyright, you have to make sure, first of all, that you have the copyright licenses, and also that you have the copyright marked in here as well too. So we'll do that in our next video. Thanks for watching.